And welcome back to Pitch Me Moms, where we are going to help you get better at your business and your life so that you can achieve success. And today I am so excited because we're going to be talking about work-life balance, which I don't know how you all deal with work-life balance. What do you guys think of my shirt? I love this shirt. Okay, but today I am only like halfway dressed here, if you can see, because my work-life balance is a mess. I was able to get my top on to be able to do this podcast, but I just couldn't get to the rest. So if you're like the rest of us, this is like my life all the time. But we are so lucky because we have the incredible Sasha Emmons, editor-in-chief of Today's Parent, which is the top parent magazine in Canada, and she's going to be here today to help us manage this work-life balance thing. And I'm really excited because I'm a little starstruck by Sasha. Her writing is fantastic. The magazine, the publication is phenomenal, and she's such an inspiration to so many moms. So I'm gonna bring her on here in just a minute, but you know, I mean, here's the deal, right? Like, work-life balance isn't easy, and we're gonna be talking about how to actually make changes so that you can get to work-life balance. But it is not, like I said, for me, it's an ongoing task. You know, you have to really be willing to change. And I know Sasha's going to elaborate on this, but you know, you have to change your mind about certain things and the way that you do things, and you have to change some of your beliefs and your habits and the way you live your life and how you plan. But if you want that unique balance that really brings you joy and, you know, provides an environment to thrive, you can have it. My biggest struggle is having fun. Like, I can slip into that workaholic thing, and my 3.5-year-old can really feel it. I mean, her favorite, I don't know if it's her favorite, it's actually really sad. Her very well-used line is, "Mom, look at me. Mom, look at me." And she turns my chin to look at her. And while it seems really adorable in the moment that she's doing it, it's actually kind of sad because she's trying to get my attention. She wants me to focus. I love that she's demanding of it, though, right? Because she's saying, I want you and I want to talk to you and you need to pay attention to me. And that really showcases a lot of confidence on her part. So I love her for that, you know. But I struggle with this. You know, is it my time right now or is it hers? And I have to be really disciplined about it. You know, I feel badly when she wants to see me during my time or during my business hours. I feel badly when I'm thinking about work during her time. So it's all just a big challenge, and luckily we've got this badass writer and editor-in-chief today who's going to help us work through this. So I want to tell you a little bit about her before I bring her on. Her name is Sasha Emmons. She's beautiful, and she is part of the Naturally Curly Hair Club, which I am too, even though I blew it out. So I'm excited about that. It makes me like her even more. She is the mom of 2. She took over as editor-in-chief of Today's Parent in February 2014. So she's been there for, I guess, just like almost 2.5 years. She's got more than 17 years of editorial experience at brands like Parenting and Parent. And if you haven't met her, you need to. Her work has appeared on everything from the Huffington Post to CNN to Better Homes and Gardens to Scholastic Parent and Child. And she was named Editor of the Year by the Canadian Society of Magazine Editors in 2015, which is the same year that Today's Parent won 4 National Magazine Awards. So she's a rock star. Well, this is the even more interesting part for me, being that I'm based in the U.S. She is a transplanted American. She lives in Toronto with her Canadian husband and her 2 kids. And Sasha, are you there?
I'm here.
I'm just thinking to myself, can we talk about that? Because maybe I need to move to Canada, because in case you haven't been paying any attention to what is going on in the political environment here, who in the world are we supposed to vote for? It's ridiculous.
I've had so many people say that to me. I'm like, yeah, I did it preemptively. I did it 4 years ago. I looked into my crystal ball, and but I'm here to answer anyone's questions about moving to Canada.
Well, I mean, obviously we're here to talk about work-life balance, but did you move there because of the opportunity? Did you always want to be there? I mean, that's a big move.
Well, my husband is Canadian, so we met in New York, and we both, you know, kind of thought we would make our lives there, make our careers there. He was down there and had a green card, well, actually, he didn't have a green card yet, but he had a long-term visa. So he was kind of making his career in New York, and we met. We got married. He was able to get his green card through marriage, so we could have stayed in New York indefinitely. But then we kept talking about, okay, what's the next step going to be? Things had become untenable, I would say, with both of our careers. So we had one child. We had my daughter Chloe, and things were okay with just one child. I had fairly I had work hours I could kind of depend on as far as, you know, getting home on time. One kid's not that bad. You can still kind of, you know, pass off the child to get a little bit of you time sometimes.
Right. I have one, and I'm not having two because I'm old. But I totally get it. Like, if there was another one, just forget it. I just don't know what I would do.
You know what? I think the time that I feel like I had the best balance actually was when my daughter, when I just had one, and she was pretty little, but she was sleeping through the night, but she went to bed quite early. So, you know, I would come home, I'd have like an hour and a half of just like great focused, concentrated time with her. It's not that hard to focus on your child and, you know, block out work for 90 minutes. Right. And then she would go to bed. She was a really good sleeper, would go off like a dream. And then I'd still have time to, you know, make a nice dinner and do a little bit of work. And I actually did like writing for myself. I had a blog at the time. And now when you compare that to my evenings now, which my kids are older, they go to bed later. They sometimes have activities in the evening. It's just like a race as soon as I get home to just get everything done, get them to where they need to go, get their homework done, fit in the reading that you need to do, and we need to practice spelling, and like there's so many things to do. Yeah. So once we had our son, and actually some of these discussions actually really started during my pregnancy with my son, because I had a very difficult pregnancy. I actually was on bed rest for the last 2.5 months of it.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm stuck at home. I can't take care.
Write.
I can't take care of my son because I can't leave the house, so I can't get her to school. I'm in and out of the hospital, so I can't get her to school. And so that's really when it became clear to me, like, how important our jobs had become in our lives. I was lucky and not lucky in that I'd actually gotten laid off when I was 9 weeks pregnant. So I had taken a contract job, and fortunately, you know, it was a great contract job with people that I already knew. So they were willing to be really understanding about my situation. But my husband's job was such that, you know, if he left at 5, it was like he was leaving at 1 in the afternoon, and he traveled all the time. So, you know, here I'm laying in bed trying to hold on to this baby that I know is going to be born early, and he's still traveling and still having to work late every night, and that really just made me realize, like, we have our priorities wrong here. We have a really serious situation happening right here. As it turned out, he was born at 34 weeks. He's fine. He's an incredibly healthy boy. But you know, originally I went into labor at 25 weeks, so we were dealing with, you know, maybe having a kid with some really serious medical needs and being in the NICU, and yet we didn't seem to be able to scale back on our careers, despite the fact that you know, we had this really scary situation happening.
It's amazing because I can only
wasn't able to kind of step up and help out because his career, it just wasn't acceptable in his office.
I feel like I can imagine you sitting there, not being able to get out of bed, having to deal with your business, and having to deal with everything else that needed to be tended to for your family. That must have been impossible.
That was just a very rough time, and I mean, I'm so grateful that it all worked out, and, you know, whether or not it was due to the bed rest or not, like, I was able to, you know, hang on till 34 weeks. But you know, even on the day that I gave birth, I ended up being induced at the day I hit 34 weeks. My water had already broken the week before, and it's a Saturday, and my son was born on the 4th of July, so it's a Saturday, and it's a holiday, and my husband was getting work emails, And everybody knew I was being induced. Like when he said goodbye the day before, you know, everyone said, well, you know, have fun meeting your son tomorrow. And I just thought, is nothing sacred anymore? Like even the day you're having your baby, which you know you're having early, so you know they're going to be in the NICU and probably going to have some medical issues. Like really, is there really, like not even that day? We can't take a day off from work. So so that just, you know, to be honest, it introduced a lot of conflict into our relationship, and was something that we really had to, you know, once we kind of got through him being in the NICU and got through, you know, just having a newborn again, we really had to start having some conversations about, you know, what are we going to do to fix this? Because it's
so is that when everything shifted?
Yeah, so we, you know, because he lived in Toronto, that was always an option for us. Because he'd grown up in Toronto, Toronto was always an option for us.
Yeah.
Many people in New York, you know, tend to go out to Westchester or New Jersey, and then one parent really pulls back on their career. They work at home, they work part-time.
Yeah.
Moving out to the suburbs was not going to help our problem. It was just going to be, it was actually going to make it worse, add long commute times into you know, a very long work day. That was only going to make things worse. So we really needed to look at doing something drastic. When we would come up to visit, you know, his friends and his family in Canada, it just seemed like there was a different value on work. I mean, people work very hard here, but you see, you know, for the first year and a half I worked at home, and I would see dads walking down the street at 5:15 walking home. Something I wouldn't see as much in New York. So it's just... So
is the big... They value play as much as work. Is that really what you got to experience there?
Yeah, and I think they're very involved in their kids' lives. I mean, part of it is because, at least in my neighborhood, sports is a really big deal. And so both parents are kind of needed to drive their kids to hockey. It's such a stereotype, but it is true. Yeah. And so both parents are just kind of needed to be around. But also I just noticed, you know, I work for Rogers, which is not only publishes a whole bunch of magazines, but is a big wireless and telecom company. And, you know, you walk around at 5:30 and not very many people are here. Right. Which I think is the right value. You work hard during the day and then you get home to your family.
So so I have a whole bunch of questions I want to ask you.
Sure.
Is that your opinion of what work-life balance is? Like, what does work-life balance really mean to you?
Well, I don't want to sit here and say like I've achieved balance. I don't know that you ever do achieve balance, or maybe achieve it for like a day and then everything goes to pot again.
So you got dressed fully today?
I did, but I didn't get to go out there. So.
Right, but you're not wearing like wacky pants and slippers that totally don't go with the shirt.
I wish I were wearing those. Yeah, like I feel like you kind of achieve something that feels like you're managing things, and then something else comes up. I think that you really have to be able to deal with chaos and just be okay with chaos and change around you all the time. I think that if you are a full-time working parent and you have children, you just have to find a way to be okay with that. And part of it is I just don't even try anymore. I openly admit like I'm a hot mess most of the time. And it's a little bit liberating.
You know what? This is really important, and I just want to share this with listeners. You know, it's really what you're saying is it really is about acceptance, you know, because in that fight, and this is what I'm hearing from you, and I agree with, in that fight to try to make everything perfect and somehow assume that your kid isn't going to walk in on you and perhaps have poop running down her legs, because that's been my reality these days, while you're on a business meeting, and that you're not going to have to stop right now and say, you know what, hang on really quick, and that the more you fight just what is chaotic about being moms or parents, it's like the worse it is, the more tense you are, because you're not like rolling with the punches. That's what I'm really hearing that you're saying. We got to roll with the punches. You know what? I only got halfway dressed today. So what?
Yeah.
Celebrate it.
Exactly.
Right.
For me, it's more just knowing that I don't have things done. You know, I don't have camp figured out for the rest of the summer for my
Right?
kids. Camp is my childcare, so
Yeah.
a little part of my brain is freaking out about it, but I'm mostly not freaking out about it. I know we'll figure it out. There's got to be some camp that's still open the last couple weeks.
Right, that I can like get them into. Exactly.
Yeah, but I think I used to spend, I won't say I don't beat myself up about that at all anymore, but I used to spend more time beating myself up about it. But I guess that, my oldest is 11, so I've been at this for 11 years now, and in 11 years I figured out that most of the time it somehow works out. So.
Yeah. So like, don't like totally freak because ultimately everything, there's a resolution. Because I'll admit, and tell me if you have these days because I want to know about them. I'll admit that, I'll say this fast. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, my kid is in, well, right now camp, but normally preschool, right? She's only 3.5. And then, so that works out great because then someone picks her up at 4 and it's great. And
Right.
But Tuesdays and Thursdays, my honey and I are doing half days. So this is the part that's embarrassing and that I feel incredibly guilty about, is that on my half days, I've made a commitment that that's my time with her.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to be honest, sometimes I pop her in front of the TV because I have to get to something, and then I just sit and I beat myself up because I feel like I'm like the worst parent on the planet. Like, what can you say to us people who, I know I'm not the only one.
Well, I'm in the worst parent club with you, if that makes you feel better. Right. I can remember one time where we had like a back-to-school night, and I would try, this is when my kids were still pretty little, so I would try really hard to, not give them screen time when I came home because, I didn't have that long before bedtime, so I really just wanted to focus. But some news happened where I had to coordinate coverage of news. And so I popped her in front of the TV. And then, of course, the next night was a back-to-school night. And for some reason, the kids had to go around and talk about what they did the night before. And my daughter said, all I did was watch TV. I just felt like, the worst person to be, like, called out in front of all the other parents. And, of course, I wanted to be like, but every other night we spend quality time.
Right, right. But totally want to be defensive. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, sometimes you have to do that. It happens.
It's funny. Nancy is saying, you guys are too hard on yourselves. And it's funny because I feel like when you have a kid, well, see, your experience now. So I've never done this before, and mine's 3.5. So you have 2 kids, and your oldest is 11, right?
Right.
So you're like a pro in my world. And I think we do want to in the beginning especially. Now you're probably like, whatever. Like, the fact that we got through today is amazing. Yeah. And I'm not there yet. I'm still fighting that battle of, to Nancy's point, wanting to be the best parent and do everything right. And, that's not really working for me.
Well, it is easier for sure with your second, I would say, because I worried about all those same things with my first. I was so much harder with my first. But by the time your second comes around, you're like, oh, I haven't screwed up the first one that badly. I must be not.
I can do this again.
Not too bad at this. And I think they're both good kids and growing up to be good people. So that helps. I mean, I still am hard on myself. I still want to try to be the best parent that I can. But, I thoroughly believe that most of us kind of feel like we're screwing it up in our minds all the time. We might not express that, but I think most of us bank on the fact that hopefully we're coming off as better than we actually feel inside our own brains.
Right.
That's kind of what I believe to get through every day, and I'm going with it.
I love that. Oh, why do I have an echo? I have an echo. Oh, is it gone now? Oh, perfect. So, okay. That one it's not as bad as I think it is in my brain. Like, I'm not as bad of a mom.
Well, I think it's like the manifestation of imposter syndrome, which I just think that, almost every woman that I've been able to have a candid conversation with, I think, feels, whether or not it's how you're doing as a mom or whether it's how you're doing as an employee. For someone who's a writer, editor, it's, the idea that your thoughts are, have merit, that you have something to say. I think that women suffer from that so much. But I just try to tell myself that it's really just, I'm just living in that world in my head. It's not necessarily what I'm projecting out to the world. That's what I hope.
Right, exactly. So, okay, if I said to you, what are the 3 top things, or it doesn't have to be 3, but like, what are your biggest tips for achieving this work-life balance? I know you said go with the flow.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I think just trying to be okay with chaos. I mean, the good thing about being extremely, extremely busy, and since I took this job, my schedule is at a degree that I have never had to juggle before. But one good thing about being extremely busy and very scheduled is that you kind of can't freak out about any one thing too much because there's so much going on. So just kind of give in to the chaos. I think one thing I struggle with, so I hesitate to act like I'm giving advice on it, but
right.
I like you were mentioning that, getting in the mindset of just being with your child. I really struggle to slow down. When you're a successful professional, you kind of are used to, moving through your to-do list quickly. If a meeting's dragging, I'm keeping it going. When I ask people to do things, they get it done. And then I come home and I'm dealing with my son who's 7 and trying to get him to feed the dog. And it doesn't quite go.
Let's go, babe. Come on, feed the dog. What are you waiting for? Okay, I got dinner going. I got this. I've already changed. I know.
Exactly. And I'm like, I've got a lot to do tonight, and I need you to do these things so we can stay on schedule. But he's 7, and his schedule is not what my schedule is.
Yeah.
And it's not really, while he has to feed the dog, it's not really fair to, keep him going like this. When that's not really the speed that 7-year-olds move. So I really try as much as I can to really just take a deep breath and slow down, allow more time than I need, and try to, it's very hard to just let go of trying to be productive all of the time. But last night he just said to me, I just want to sit and play Lego with you. But I felt like, I've got all these things to do to get ready for camp tomorrow. You know what? I could do all those after he went to bed. So we just sit and played with Lego instead. I'm not always able to turn that off, but I think it's a good idea to do it as much as you can.
It's so funny because have you seen that little, I'm sure we're kind of behind the times with technology, but what is it, Alexa? It's that computer thing that you can talk to. Have you seen that?
Oh, no.
It's this like cylinder-shaped computer, and you go. It's kind of like Siri on the phone,
Okay. Yeah.
Alexa. So, to your point about this, like slowing down, chill out, like stop treating your personal life the same as you do your business life, which is all about prioritizing, and getting things done.
Okay.
And I know that there's part of that in the personal life, but so one of the things that I've brought into my life is Alexa, because we can talk to Alexa. She can turn on Pandora radio. We'll put toddler radio on. Because I was realizing, Sasha, that I was treating making dinner like it was a work project.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, honey, I need you to grab that. Can you get the seasoning out of the fridge? Okay, Ayla, I need you to set the table.
Yeah.
She's 3.5. She's 3.5. Ayla, I need you to set the table now. Yeah. I mean, what's that? She's like, what? So I realized, and Matt, my significant other, is like, you need to chill the frick out because you're no fun.
Yeah.
It's not fun. And not only that, it actually feels like it's a chore for me because I'm making it a chore.
Right.
To have to do exactly what you just said, which is breathe, let it go, tell Alexa to turn Pandora on.
Yeah.
And make dinner and have my daughter pull up a chair and help me be involved in dinner and make it fun. Almost
anything with parenting goes better if you're playful. It can be hard to get in that mindset when you're stressed out. But, if I ask my son to go get dressed, like, I don't know, he might not do it the first time I ask, or he might really drag his feet. But I mean, he's a little older now. I don't know if he'd fall for this. But, if you put your pants on, if you put his pants on your head and you act like you think that's where pants go,
right.
Then all of a sudden they're like, silly, that's not where they go. This is where they go. I mean, if you can try to be playful,
Yeah.
the fastest way to get him to go upstairs to brush his teeth is to race him up the stairs. Sometimes it is really hard to get into that mental space where I'm going to race him up the stairs because I don't feel like I have the 30 seconds to race him up the stairs, which if you think about it is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
But that's just going to make it go faster.
Yeah, that's a really big one, because then don't you feel like it then forces you to be more present?
It does. Like, really, I can't spend the 30 seconds going up and, brushing my teeth with him. Yeah, I think it does. But it is a total struggle for me. I don't want to act like I have all the answers there. Being present is really tough because we are kind of expected to be on all of the time, and so that's difficult.
So what do you think about, it's interesting that you say that, because I know at work that is, if you have to get stuff done.
Yeah.
But my husband does not appreciate me treating him as though we're at work. So all the playfulness.
You don't appreciate that either, huh?
I know, right? Well, I'm just thinking about what you said about, making things playful, and I realized that my husband likes me a lot better when I'm being playful too.
Yeah.
Because, he doesn't need like freaking business crazy woman either.
Yeah.
And it takes that connection, so there's no connection. Whereas if we're jamming to some good tunes while we're making dinner together, everybody feels like we're in enjoyment mode, not trying to get to some destination mode. Even if that's only like an hour. Yeah. And then you're back to, you got to get some things done.
Right. No, that's so true, actually. I can struggle with that as well. Like, you don't want to be barking orders. I don't want to have the kind of relationship where I'm like, here's the honey-do list.
Right, do it.
I don't want to be like driving the bus all of the time. And I would say that, since we made this really big change, my husband has transformed how involved he is with the kids. He would get home kind of 8 most nights when we lived in New York, and when my kids were little, basically pretty much missing them. And now, we eat together almost every night. I mean, he's traveling right now for work, but we eat together every night. He coaches all of their teams.
Wow, that's amazing.
He was out of work for a little while, and he just took the opportunity to get super involved at school and, volunteer in the classroom things, go on the field trips, like do all those things that you can't always do when you work full time at an office. Yeah. And when I look at where he was then and where I look at where he is now, it's just night and day. And I so appreciate the changes that he's made to make our relationship a little bit more equal. We still have our tiffs about who's doing what. Of course, every couple does, but I feel before it was kind of like home is your realm, and it doesn't feel like that anymore. I feel like I've got somebody to help me figure all the things out. How we organize those things is always a challenge, but
well, we have the better way.
What?
We have the better way. I mean, let's be honest. They just need to get on board with the way that we organize things and things that we see smooth. So what do you do when you blow it? Like, when you blow it, how do you deal with yourself when you're just blowing it?
Well, I think that people are actually really forgiving if you just admit that you screwed up. I think it works with your kids, and it works at work too. I think it's okay to admit when you didn't do your best or you made a wrong decision. You learn from failures too. I try really, really hard with my kids. The quality I kind of emphasize the most with them is like perseverance and patience. And part of it is because of just the various stories that I reported over the years about praise and what truly helps kids be successful. But you're not really responsible for your talents. Those are you're born with those. But what you are responsible for is progress. And so I really try hard to emphasize that to them. Like, okay, so you didn't study as hard as you should have for that test, and you didn't get a great grade. Next time, what are you going to do to change it? And then when they do that next time, to make sure that we talk about, hey, you studied harder and you got a better grade.
Yeah.
And so I try to model that with them too, to say, I screwed up, here's what I'm going to do next time.
Progress. Yeah.
Yeah, to make it better. My son had an amazing teacher in grade 1 here, and he said, instead of practice makes perfect, practice makes progress. And I love that so much. I love that saying, practice makes progress.
Can you say it again?
Instead of practice makes perfect, you say practice makes progress.
Progress. I love that.
I know, I love that. I thought that was so smart. And then my son, so this is when he was 6, he wrote on my birthday card, progress has come to you, which I thought was a hilarious thing for a 6-year-old to write.
Yeah, I think he's a writer.
But at the same time, I thought, well, actually, he was trying to write happy birthday, and he kind of messed up his letter, and he was trying to think of a P word, and he thought of progress. But anyway, I mean, what more can you wish for in your 41st year of life that progress has come to you?
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
You sound amazing. Okay, let me throw a couple of fun questions at you.
All right.
If you don't have the answers, that's fine. But do you have a favorite quote?
I think that practice makes progress one. I say it to myself all the time.
I know.
When I'm expecting myself to be perfect, it's like, no, perfection is not the goal. Progress is the goal.
And this is your son?
Yes, my son Julian.
Hey, can I quote him?
Yeah. Julian, age 6. He just turned 7 now.
Julian Emmons, age 7. I'm so going to quote him. I love it. Who's your favorite mentor?
I've worked for the same person a few times. Her name is Rachel Fishman, and she hired me when I was working at Ladies Home Journal Online. Gosh, all the places I've worked are no longer, but she hired me there, and she just was so fantastic about pushing me. She wouldn't give me the answers. She'd always ask me questions to help me find the answers, and I really appreciated that because it really helped me grow. Sometimes, especially when you're more junior, you're just looking for the person above you to give you the answers, but she just never would. She also did so many things to just kind of think outside the box. She'd have us do, kind of strange brainstorming activities, or to really take a step back and look at things in a different way. And I think about that a lot when I'm working with my team, like what totally different thing can we do to get out of our mindsets and our way of thinking, or, the way that we've done things, how can we get out of that? So I worked with her, and then she actually was the one who hired me in a contract when I was laid off when I was 9 weeks pregnant, and then I ended up getting hired by her full time when I came back after having my son. Nice. So we stayed in touch over the years, and she just got a new job working on. I think she's the editorial director for Ford.com. So she just has been fantastic, and we still stay in touch, and I'm proud to call her my mentor.
Yeah, I was going to say, it says a lot about how we can parent. I think sometimes as parents we can get very dictatorial, and I like how she encouraged problem solving by asking questions and allowing people to kind of come to their own conclusions, and that stimulates creativity and
right, and empowers them and lets them know that there's trust there. I find when things start to get overwhelming and very busy, that's one of the first things to go is I just start telling people what to do.
Right?
It's faster.
Do this because we got to move this along. Yeah,
because it's faster, but in the end it probably isn't faster. It might be faster in the moment, but you're not really growing the people around you if you're always just telling them what your vision is and never challenging them to come up with their own vision. But it's tough when you're time pressed.
Yeah. So what are you most excited about right now?
Well, we're doing lots of cool things at Today's Parent. I can't talk about all of them. This is Today's Parent for those in the U.S.
Can we subscribe to that digitally online? Can we subscribe? Okay. Yeah. Because I went to subscribe, and it was asking me what province I was in, and so I thought, but I guess if they're not mailing anything to me, it doesn't really matter. We skip that part.
No, it doesn't. So you can. So I'm in charge of the print edition here. our tablet edition, which you can find on Texture. They have Texture in the US as well. It's basically Netflix for magazines. You pay one flat fee at $9.99 a month for access to all the leading magazines in the world, and you can read them digitally. Today's Parent, the tablet, is the very best way to read Today's Parent. We've got all sorts of cool video extras and extras that you won't find in print. And yes, it is available in the US as well as Canada. It's a particularly good value proposition for Canadians because a subscription to come up here is quite expensive, but to get it digitally makes so much sense. So anyway, Rogers seems to have a lot of faith in the momentum of our brand and all the things that we've been able to do, and we're expanding in a really big way across some new platforms that I'm really excited about. Personally, I'm just excited about figuring out how I'm going to balance everything in the fall. I don't know about you, but when September rolls around, I get that this is the year I'm going to figure it all out. I'm going to be more organized this year.
Right.
I'm not going to ever be late with forms, and I'm going to pack super healthy lunches. And I find myself, I've had a little bit of time off, so I guess my mind has gone to that place already. And I've had a nanny up until now, and now that my kids are in school, I just couldn't do that anymore. So I'm figuring out my childcare situation for the fall. But I'm just excited about getting things to be a bit more organized, getting the household to run more smoothly, and empowering my kids to do a little bit more maybe than they've done because they had someone watching them full time. My daughter's at camp, and when she gets home, we're doing a little laundry lesson.
Right. You want to vacuum, honey. You know you do.
So I know it's going to be a challenge, kind of getting them on board. They help out already, but I'm going to be asking them to help out more. But I'm hoping we can just say, oh, well, now you're in second and sixth grade. When you're in second grade, you do this. These are the things you do. So,
what it is.
Yeah, that everyone knows that. That's the law. So
right.
I can something like that.
Well, is there anything I missed?
The only thing I just wanted to add as far as, the 3 pieces of advice, one thing that I have been scared sometimes to talk about are work-life balance issues at work. Once you get to a certain level, you're mostly surrounded by men, and you don't want someone to perceive the fact that you have work-life challenges to be seen as a weakness. But I feel like if we don't talk about it, things are never going to change. And I guess I'm at the point now where I feel valued enough. I've hopefully proven my worth enough that I can talk about it and not worry someone's going to, question my loyalty or my commitment to the job. Instead, I feel like maybe I can open some eyes. So I guess my advice is just to, try. You don't need to, vent all the time, but I think it's okay to say, listen, there are only so many hours in the day, and I can't figure out a way to get all this work done in these hours. I think it's okay to say,
help.
I'm this week my son is in hockey camp. I have to leave a little bit early in order to get him. They don't have aftercare, and that's just what I'm doing this week. That's just how it's.
I really hear that as, I think you had more than 3 because I started writing them down. I think that is celebrating momhood. I think it's celebrating being a woman. And, for a lot of the people who are listening, they're entrepreneurs, but it's the same thing. I mean, because I take a lot of meetings throughout the day with men, and they're usually like on Zoom in this type of an environment. And sometimes my 3.5-year-old's on my lap. And I feel like part of us accepting it and celebrating it and is teaching, just by allowing it to be there without apologizing for it, in a way, we're teaching the men around us to be okay with it. And that this is part of men and women succeeding together in this global workplace or your local workplace, And
I've noticed actually more men talking about it. I mean, a lot of men, when you get to a certain level, do have a stay-at-home spouse, and so they're not really in the same boat as you, but I have encountered more men who are in my same boat where both of us are working hard, both of us have full-time careers, and they're encountering those issues too and being a little bit more open about it as well. And I really appreciate when that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just to do kind of a little recap, there's so much good stuff. Sasha, this is so awesome. Go with the flow, everyone. This is really important for us for work-life balance. We have to go with the flow and really, as Sasha said it, give into the chaos. You know, that's what it is. So as Byron Katie would say, I don't know if you know Byron Katie, but she's one of my favorite writers, and she wrote this book called Loving What Is. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a nutty book, but what it really challenges you to do is question the things that you say are true and choose what's actually happening instead of pretending like what's happening isn't, because that's when chaos becomes hell. Yes. So it's chaotic, and that's what it is. So now how do I get through that? So I loved that. Also, that belief system, that mindset shift you said, you know, I'm not as bad of a mom as I sometimes judge myself to be, and really starting to give yourself a break, as Nancy said. Slowing down, taking it down, breathing, when you're in a place where you're with your family, have some fun, turn on the music, enjoy yourself, do your best to be present. The more you can do that, the more fun it'll actually be for you, and you won't experience it like a chore. And then celebrate. You didn't celebrate being a woman, which means don't hide and try to pretend that you're not dealing with issues, whether you're at work or in your career or wherever, that you're actually dealing with, because then you really rob other people of the opportunity of accepting it and starting to be able to be one with it. So that's what I got from this. Did I miss anything?
No, all I need to do is just live all of those out 100% of the day.
100% of the time, which sounds totally doable. Well, I love this. You know, I wanted to add in a couple other things to that, if I could, just for everyone. And you really said it in one way or another. Forgiveness on yourself. And you said it when we talked about blowing it. You know, it's just give yourself a break. You're a human being. Nobody's looking at us and thinking that we need to be perfect and get it all, cross every dot and cross every dot.
I got your.
Cross every T. Okay, you got it right? Like we don't, when we don't give ourselves a break, other people don't give us a break.
Yeah.
But when we give ourselves a break, everyone else is like, all right, well, she's okay with it. So, and you said that about how you ask for forgiveness from your kids, but you're willing to admit that you blow it too. Yeah. And then I think prioritization, and that's a big one that I just want to kind of end with, which is we women have these insane to-do lists, and that's fine, but there's probably only 2 or 3 things that you, and I'm not including when you're at work in work mode, but when you get home, there's a few things that you know that you must do, you know, but you don't have to get it all done. And even at work, you don't have to get it all done, because then you're just chasing this constant to-do list, and it's overwhelming. Because we know at the end of the day that if we have 4 hours as entrepreneurs of work time in that day, like on my half day, it's possible that my kid might get sick and I have to go pick her up. So that 4 hours might only be 1. So if I focus on doing what matters most, it's going to make the most significant difference to my day, to my life, to my business, and I just worry about that, I can let some of the other stuff go. It'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah. You never get through your to-do list. Just
right? And then when you think you do, you just added like 100 more things.
Yeah.
So this was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you had fun. I hope it wasn't too painful.
Yeah. No, it was lovely to chat with you.
Right? Well, you're brilliant. You're brilliant. I love your writing. Everybody needs to be reading Today's Parent if they're not. There are so many incredible writers there. Obviously, you get to hear from Sasha herself when she blesses us with her writing. And to everybody else, I guess we'll just wrap up. You know, if you have a business idea or business challenges and you want some advice on that, you know, tips and tricks about being successful, subscribe to Pitch Me Moms, learn more. Please visit Today's Parent, subscribe, because it's awesome. 1 in 5 women are being reached in Canada with this incredible publication. Sasha, thank you so much for being here. It's been really amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime. I'd love to have you back.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.